Thanks.
101.9 KINK in the Bing Lounge. Bill Champlin, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come in.
That was cool.
Yeah?
A bit of a drive this morning.
Where'd you drive from?
We drove from above Seattle.
Oh, okay.
So we had a 4:30 wake up because we had to feed the chickens and milk the cows and
Of
stuff
course.
before we left.
Yeah, you got to get out and do the
Farmers'
things you gotta
hours,
do.
man. We're on them now.
Well, I've been a Sons of Champlin fan for a long, long time.
You're the one.
I'm the guy, right here. There's some others here in the audience too, though. There we go. And I came across you guys because I went to a Tower of Power show back in the early '70s because I was a big fan of theirs. And,
yeah, still.
Yeah, I still am.
Hey, they're
yeah.
smoking like a freight train these days.
And you
Great.
guys opened up for them, so I became aware of you then. Cool. And the Sons.
And they blew us off the stage.
They blew everybody out. They still do.
That's the nature of Tower of Power.
Yeah, that's a force to be reckoned with.
Oh,
there.
no question about it.
And I'm always a sucker for a horn band. So how did the Sons start? I mean, when did you start that band?
Well, I think to begin with, we started pretty early, right out of high school, and it was like all the guys that didn't get drafted. We were talking mid '60s.
Yeah.
And right around the time Chicago was starting, basically, and so what we got guys with asthma, guys that had polio, guys that were married and had kids. I mean, that's pretty much. That was kind of, hey, how well do you play? I don't. Who cares how well you play? What's your draft? What's your draft number?
Yeah.
Well, I was 3S.
Oh, okay.
You're in the band.
You're in the band. We need a 3S. We've been looking for a 3S. Yeah.
Yes, well, got a nice S. Okay. Anyway. So I mean, that's kind of where it started. We just, a bunch of the guys that we'd played with in high school had, rather than be drafted, which meant grunt. Pretty much, which meant you've just got a bullseye on your back of your uniform. Guys went into the Army band and Navy bands and stuff like this. Good musicians that we'd play with during high school. So we kind of lost some guys and put some stuff together. And then Tim Kaine and Terry Haggerty and I pretty much put the Sons together.
Okay, so this is north. This is Marin County, right?
Yeah, this was in 1965.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's some scenes that have happened over the years. Actually, Portland is kind of developing a scene now. There was a great one in Seattle during the 90s and swing in London like in the early 60s.
San Francisco had its moment.
I know. That's what I was
They were
ask
saying,
you.
and there was a time in San Francisco you could get a record deal with a piece of wax paper and a comb.
So can you give us a glimmer of what that was like? Because, I mean, I wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me an email the other day. Says, I'm looking for a cure for ADD. Nice cake. I don't know, whatever it was. But, it was, we were kind of, we ended up right on the front edge of the Fillmore doing the Fillmore stuff. And Avalon Ballroom, which I thought was even hipper than the Fillmore in a lot of ways. Chet Helms ran Family Dog.
Okay.
You probably see the Chet Helms posters. And Chet was really kind of the heart and soul of the San Francisco scene, for my money, he always was. Bill was like the guy that really, Bill Graham pretty much put it on the map, because he was such he was a juggernaut, Well, triple Capricorn, that pretty much says it all.
Yeah, and then
right
his bills were like that. He'd have, like the Grateful Dead and then Miles Davis on the same bill.
Yeah, in some ways it was cool. I think we did a gig with, it was the Dead, us, and Preservation Hall Jazz Band.
Nice.
And there wasn't anybody in that band under 75 years old, and they blew us and the Dead off the stage.
I imagine they did.
They were awesome, man. They were just unbelievably great.
When I started in radio, I interned for a guy that ran KSAN for a number of years.
Yeah.
Tom O'Hare. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little connection there.
Well, I think KMPX pretty much started FM.
Yeah, they did.
Larry Miller's show, like 12 to 6 in the morning, and then the rest of the day it was Spanish speaking, but stereo Spanish, Sí, sí, no, and then suddenly there's Jimi Hendrix. Listen, I remember where I was the first time I heard Red House. I went, where did this guy come from?
Yeah.
Seattle. Really? I had to go to England to get discovered, but there you have it.
There you have it.
Yeah.
So you did the San Francisco thing, and the Sons. We talked about this a little bit, where the Sons never quite hit commercially like a lot of those bands did.
Well, I mean, there was, we top billed the Doobies, we top billed Santana. I mean, I got a thing where I think it was James Cotton, Sons of Champlin, and Santana Blues Band.
Right.
They called themselves a blues band at that point. And at some point in the game, something comes, especially at that time when people were looking for the comb and the wax paper.
Right.
Hey, we like you. You're selling some tickets. You're getting a following. Let's get a record deal. Well, we got a record deal, but it just there was always just these little mistakes that happened. Just
like the first album.
We kind of went. We learned our career moves from Suzanne Summers, I think. You know what I mean? It's like when opportunity knocked, we answered the phone. And plus, we were so high we could go duck hunting with a fork, so that didn't help. That didn't particularly help things out too well.
Yeah. So that Loosen Up Naturally album, that was the one. It came out about the same time as Chicago's first album,
Same
right?
day, I think.
Same day.
And they were both double albums. They were supposedly for the price of one.
Yeah.
But every retailer would go,
we could
I
do
can
here.
grab
We can
$5
sell it
of
for
this myself.
Nice.
So it didn't come out quite the way we everybody expected it to come out. But CTA actually didn't do that well to start with.
No,
it
it
was
didn't.
their second album,
Yeah.
and their first album started.
Yeah, they had to go back to,
Yeah.
after the second album came back, they went and released singles off the first album.
Yeah,
to get it
re-released,
moving.
and actually re-released the first
Yeah.
album, gave it another push.
So speaking of Chicago, what was that like going from, you got this thing going with the Suns and a certain level of things, then you join that machine.
Well, I bailed out of the Suns in '77. We had just kind of reached. I kind of decided to actually. I remember where I was when I decided I'd pretty much had enough. I was out on Highway 5 going down toward Eugene.
Okay.
I just went. We've kind of reached this point where we used to call it the Jekyll and Hyde circuit.
Yeah.
Where we were playing clubs, but then if you want to keep the club gig, you got to play nothing but R&B to keep people dancing, to keep them thirsty, to keep them drinking, to keep
Right.
you hired, and it was just this sort of over and over thing, and we found ourselves playing nothing but clubs, and suddenly we're playing more Commodore's tunes than we are our own tunes, and I just kind of going, I've written some really, really great songs, and we're not performing any of them.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we became, a pretty good R&B band, and a good dance unit, but it was like, there's a million of those. I mean, we had something special that we seemed to be losing. So I kind of bailed out, and I'd met some people in Los Angeles. We'd done an album with Keith Olsen, Circle Filled with Love album, which got close but didn't quite make it. And then we did another album with Chris Bond, Loving Is Why. And at the end of that, I just kind of went, I think I'm done. And I'd made enough connections in L.A. to where I moved to L.A. and started doing session work. And just within 6 months, I had a Grammy nomination, and I was working every day. I couldn't, I had worked my way into a pretty serious career. Not something that I planned on doing, but I found myself becoming a vocal arranger and a vocal contractor and doing vocal dates. Singing backgrounds for everybody. It just started off doing Donnie and Marie, and then the next thing you know, I'm doing Elton John records and Donna Summer records and all these other kind of records. And I kind of fell into a situation, like my dad said, the definition of an expert's a guy from the next county. So, I was like the new guy. I was the guy from the next county for a couple of years there. So I got into that, and then me and Foster and Graydon wrote After the Love Is Gone, and that really did pretty well for us with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And a couple of years later, me and Jay Graydon and Steve Lukather wrote Turn Your Love Around. I got another Grammy for that. And right around that time, I was kind of seeing that the music scene, the record scene, I'd go in and say, hey, I got a really great idea. Musically, we can do this. He said, no, we want a hit. Mm-hmm. We don't want good music. We want a hit. And I started hearing that in the studios. And I went, Yeah. And then right around then, the offer came to join up with Chicago. And I said, well, you guys, I'm not a sideman. I don't really do that. Because I knew they had ringers in their band even then. Guys, session guys that were good players and that were just, salaried guys. So I don't do that. So they made me a full member of the band, and that lasted 28 years. But nice. It was fun for 10. Maybe 15. I don't know. It was really fun when I was singing with Peter. That was a kick. We really enjoyed that. It was a good blend.
Well, we really enjoyed it.
Any questions, anyone? I think the theory of relativity is that you don't date your cousin. Okay. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Let's go right into
I was aiming at Brad because, it's one of those things.
Love to hear some more music. Let's do this.
Let me see if I'll knock something off.
All right. Bill Champlin in the Bing Lounge.